Swimming in frozen water, getting paid to stay in luxury, talking about Evermore and backpacks in the overhead, all of that coming up right now on MTM Travel.
I can't wait to have this backpack discussion.
So, Mark, happy new week. Happy Tuesday. And I saw you were up in the cold up in Perchville. I don't know what that is, but it looked like there was people swimming and snow, and it just looked too cold for me.
Yeah, it's a festival that goes on in East Tawas, Michigan, and that's where I grew up for a bit. Have some friends there. My oldest friend still goes up there every year. His parents live up there still, so he goes up most every year for this. It's been going on for 75 years now, I believe, somewhere around there, and it's just kind of a fun weekend. It starts off with a big chili festival kickoff type of thing, like a competition where you pay $10, you get a koozie, walk around. You get to try chili from every business, like makes their own chili, and you get to see and you vote for it, see who wins. My mom actually finished third one year when she was up there. But so you start off with that, then you go down for the polar bear dip, where they cut out a big chunk of ice in Lake Huron, and people jump in. They dress up like as like baby sharks. And one year, my buddy dressed up as Michael Phelps, wearing a gold medal and all that stuff. Like they get all kind of crazy and they jump in there and then you go into the beer tent and have some fun, live music. Everybody just kind of hangs out and bras get thrown onto signs. It's just a crazy time.
I used to think like jumping in the water like that was nuts. I mean, but when you do cold plunges, I've done enough cold plunges now where it's essentially the same thing. And I don't know, there's just nothing like getting your breath taken away by freezing cold water. I think that I don't know. I don't know. I probably wouldn't do it. I'm thinking because it's also cold outside. That's the problem, is that you're not in like an area where you can immediately temperature adjust. It's just freezing everywhere. It feels like a small town, like just looking at the pictures you put on X and just what was going on. It just feels like Americana. And, we're used to that in the summer and all that sort of stuff, but it's cool to see that in the winter too.
Yeah, there's only a couple thousand people in this town, but people come from all over. There's it's a big festival, so everybody within like an hour radius kind of drives in, and you end up getting a couple thousand people hanging out just for this event, which is fun. And funny enough, they had a very similar type of thing in the town where we have the cottage up in the Thumb. So this isn't the only place that does it, but I think they're one of the more known ones. They're the longer going one. So I'll have to do the one in Lexington, Michigan in the next couple years, maybe get my daughter to jump in with me because she's the only one that will. The nice thing about Taos is they all have heating tents and stuff. So you stand in the heating tent before you come out. You can go back in after, so you warm up a bit. But they also have, it used to be a Holiday Inn. Now it's just, they didn't want to pay the franchise fee anymore. So it's just Taos Bay Beach Resort or whatever, right on the water. Has a little tiki bar type thing out on the beach, which is really cool and unique for being in Michigan. But you go inside, they have a heated pool with a hot tub. So you can go in there and warm up after, which is kind of nice. They don't have that in Lexington. So there's a +1 for if you want to go to Taos.
So this is the travel show. So I'll talk travel here for a second, but you talk about indoor heated pool and stuff like that. Growing up on the West Coast, and we went to around the West Coast, let's say, and I didn't travel further east until I was an adult. And then just just the novelty of having indoor. I remember the first time I ever saw it was going to a Packers game in Minneapolis, staying at a hotel that had an indoor pool. And you're like, oh, and it wasn't like a nice hotel. We're talking about like, motels have indoor pools too, or whatever it was, and just that all the hotels there have heated pools. It's just for you, it's just you've known that your whole life. But for a West Coaster, you're like, the pools it's like a novelty. And now I just think that they're humid and stinky, but I used to like them.
The best ones are the indoor-outdoor pools. So even when it's snowing outside, you can go outside and swim in the heated pool, and then you just swim under the little gate or whatever to come back inside. And you can jump out, jump in the snow, get back in the outdoor pool. Those are the best times. But the best indoor pool of all time, right?
The Holidome?
Yes.
I wasn't sure where you were going with that. Because from a square footage perspective, no, but we love the holidomes. If you don't know what those were, they were these all-in-one Holiday Inn family fun things with a pool in the middle and an atrium and video games. And we both stayed at the only existing Holidome left in St. Louis, right by Six Flags. Long live that property. I mean, there are still a few buildings that are left that are now rebranded as something else, right?
Yeah, I think they've transitioned. There might be one other Holidome around, or at least I know I wrote about it on Miles to Memories years ago, like what was left. And there's a couple that have changed brands or whatever, but still have the similar thing. The problem, like you said, the indoor pools smell like mold or musty or whatever. The ventilation is the issue, and that kind of brought down the Hollow Dome. It was so expensive to keep it up or to work that out, and I think a lot of the wood got rotten in there. So yeah, let's hope St. Louis holds on. I don't think they're going to be building anymore anytime soon.
I love that hotel. I mean, the rooms aren't anything special, but I love that hotel. I've stayed there twice now, and I do hope to do it again. But any other takeaways from the festival? Like you said, there's multiple of these winter festivals. I never really thought about it, but I kind of love the fact that, especially you guys are kind of, I would imagine this time of year you're indoors a lot more than you are outdoors. So it's nice to be able to get around people and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice break in the worst part of winter, and it's cool that different towns do this type of thing because you have Great Lakes all around the state. So I'm sure it goes on even more than I realize, and at different lakes and everything. So everybody kind of throws their spin on it, and they usually do it to raise money for something, some type of charity. Everybody donates to do the jump, and or they raise money by selling. Like we had to buy a button to get in the beer tent and everything like that. So it's a fun way to kind of come together in the winter and do something that you would normally do in the summer, like you said.
So let's talk Calala Island and this crazy promo that they came out with. Calala has been, I think, aspirational for quite a few people in the miles and point space since it came onto the scene a few years ago. Basically, a private island with these private cabanas. You have to reach it by boat, right? You have to take a boat to get there. So it's not easy to get to, but I've talked to a few people who've stayed there. They've all really loved it and love the service and everything. All that to say is they have this crazy promo to celebrate their 10th anniversary. If you book 4 nights or more before May 10th, and then after you make your stay, they will pay you $2,510 in cash. They're going to wire you that money after you check out. And you confirmed that free night stays and point stays do count for this. Now, points are 240,000 a night, which is a lot, but free night certificates, this is a great use of them. And then you get cash back in your, I mean, when have you ever heard of a hotel wiring you money after checkout?
Yeah, and you just have to complete that stay by June 10th. So you don't have a ton of time frame there to make this work. And it is, like you said, difficult to get there. The flight is hard to get down into the area. And then you have a couple hours by boat, and it's not like a yacht boat. It's it's like a swamp boat type of looking thing. It's not the best, but everybody says it's worth it once you get there. All inclusive food, drinks, everything like that. And this normally goes for like at least the prices they're charging on Hilton is $4,400 a night, $4,000 a night, somewhere in that ballpark range. So when you look at this as just like a discount, it's like 15% off a 4 night stay cash wise, which is in the realm of what you see for anniversary promos, things like that. But the fact that they're giving this to people that book with points is kind of out of this world. I've never seen anything like it or heard anything like it. So if you have those free night certificates that you can book, it's a way to like basically turn those into cash that will cover, your cost of getting down there and all that type of stuff. So we'll offset all of that once you're there. You're not paying for anything. It's all inclusive unless you want to leave a tip when you leave. And you get everything, all your food, all your drink, all that stuff. And they say there that it should automatically be applied if you book the 4 night stay. So you'll probably have to call into Hilton to get that booked. They'll have to combine your free night certificates or your free night certificates and points or whatever together, lock it in, and then you can email the property if you want, call them, reach out, make sure it's all activated properly, it seems like it should just naturally be done. But you can follow up and get it in writing and everything like that. And then a couple weeks after you leave, hopefully there's a check in the mail or in your bank account.
If I could ask one question of Hilton executives, now I've asked them and they wouldn't answer this because I've asked them similar questions before, but what is the reimbursement rate for this hotel? I wonder what Hilton for a free night cert is paying the hotel. I know it's probably based on obviously occupancy, but it is a smaller hotel, but it has to be a significant amount of money for this to work financially for them, given the overall nightly cost.
Well, I'm guessing that they're thinking that this will fill up the hotel, which it definitely will, if there's free night rooms available and stuff. And I don't know how many people staying on the island are paying cash. If it's that's a normal thing, and maybe it is, and maybe this is where the rich and famous go. I don't know, but I think there's only like 10 rooms, something like that, on the whole island. So it's not hard to get to that 90% occupancy, which is what we've always heard, where they have to start paying the rack rate, at least a lot of the points programs. And like you say, we don't know. This is SLH. Do they have a different setup than a normal Hilton because it is SLH? That's one thing to consider. And a second thing, since this is a boutique, smaller property, do they have certain guarantees where they're going to get at least like $1,000 a night? I mean, the food and drink and all that stuff's included. So I wouldn't I wouldn't expect them to be getting like $50 like you hear some other hotels and being okay with that. That would be kind of insane. But yeah, I'm guessing they're hoping this fills up the rooms and then they have more than enough money to pay out to people.
And there's been a lot of debate over the years with Hilton whether they're going to change these certs. And I've talked about this before, and I asked them specifically, redemptions like this are outliers for them. And so they would rather have this across the board, these free night certs work for anything, and eat a little money on this type of redemption where they're making tons of money on others that are not ideal and stuff like that. But for them, they win by having this really wide open sort of thing. And that's where people benefit by being strategic with these certificates. The Waldorf and Cabo people always talk about. And that one's, I've had mixed experiences at that hotel. My wife doesn't have any desire to ever go back there. But, it's a great deal if you're looking at the cash. And yeah, just use your Hilton certs for stuff like this and you'll come out well ahead. Or Evermore. Evermore can be very expensive. And that's another good use of certs depending on the time of year.
Yeah, that one usually goes for like 120K for the stand room. I've seen it down towards 100, 101,000, which if you look at the Conrad, which is right next door, same property, they share the lagoon and all that, that charges 90K a night. And when you look at Evermore, you're getting an 1,800 square foot condo with 2 bedrooms, a kitchen, living room, all the bells and whistles. It's not as modern or new as the Conrad is, but think about that. For only 30,000 more points, even less, sometimes 10,000 more points, you're getting all that extra square footage and everything. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is. And let's talk about your Evermore stay because as you talked about, we've covered the Conrad before on the show. You stayed there and all of that. And now you got to stay in one of the villas. And this is, for people who don't know, Evermore is very close to Disney World. It's in sort of the Grand Cypress. I mean, it's in the Evermore area, but if people know where the Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress is, it's close to that, not far from Disney Springs. So a good kind of central location to book a Disney World trip or a wider Orlando trip. But the big centerpiece of this resort for anybody who is just seeing this for the first time is the lagoon, the pool area, which I know wasn't open for your trip this time, but that is really like the picturesque thing that they want, the social media hook that everybody gets stuck on.
I mean, there was kids still jumping in the lagoon off the rope swing. I wouldn't have. It was cold, but they still were doing it. The first day it was like 75-ish, so it was not bad. And then we were there when they hit the really cold spell where iguanas were falling off trees and stuff. And then by the time we left, it was like 28, 35, something like that. It felt like 28, but I think it was 35. And we went to there. They still have heated pools and everything. So we did go to the heated pools one night when it was real feel 38 degrees out. We had to walk across the parking lot all wet and everything. But we're Michigan folks. As we just talked about, we jump in a frozen lake. We're definitely going to a hot tub when we're in Florida. But yeah, the lagoon is the showstopper. We were lucky enough to get one of the Evermore condos that was right on the lagoon. So you walk out like the bedroom door, the living room door, all right to your little patio overlooking the lagoon. Really beautiful. You could get stuck not on the lagoon, and I'm guessing the time of year worked in our favor that we were able to book into that. We weren't upgraded or anything. That was like booking into. So you could potentially get something that's a couple blocks away. What I had mistakenly thought was that these were new, like most of Evermore is. If you look across the lagoon, there's these high-rise condos that are brand spanking new. They can sleep up to like 12 people and stuff. So I thought that these would be kind of updated too, or in that realm. And they're not. I think they were the original Evermore golf cabana, whatever you want to call them, condos that people rented. So you walk in, very like 70s, 80-ish vibes, like sunken living room. The carpet's a bit dated, black furniture, like a huge dining table that looks like you're about to have a Wall Street 80s meeting at. It's just massive glass table with black chairs. So it's very 80s feeling when you're in there. So if that's going to bother you, you don't want to stay here.
And the Conrad is just gorgeous. It's brand new, and so there that ability. And then I haven't seen the pictures of the other condos there, but there is, yeah. I mean, a lot of people didn't know that this was redeveloped from another resort. I don't know all the history of it. I know it had something to do with Grand Cypress before, and then it got split off, but it did exist there before, which is your sort of point. I always have that feeling when I go into timeshares in a lot of places, like, and I know because of the way that they're refreshed and all this sort of stuff. But to me, timeshares are not even timeshares. Any room that has a kitchen always feels a little backwards. I mean, I'm not talking about like a Hyatt. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm saying that I've walked into plenty of rooms like that, that where you go to like a timeshare kind of place, and then it feels like it's wasn't refreshed for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, and this is almost set up more like an Airbnb, which is kind of unique in that aspect. Like when we went to check in, you check in at the main building where the restaurants and stuff are. And we got there at around 9 o'clock at night. So a bit later, there was one guy sitting in there, not much of a lobby. I don't think anybody really ever comes to deal with them or anything like that. So we checked in. He got us in a van, drove us over to the unit. Everything is by code. So you have a code to get into your door. There's no keys. You can't bill anything back to your room, which is a negative that we can talk about more in a bit. And but the nice thing is like you can lock the door with the code, and that works main door or the patio doors going out to the pool area, which took us a little bit to realize that that was possible. We were walking around to the other side, and then everything is kind of done by text. Like my parents came the next day, and I wanted to add their car so that they didn't have to deal with security or anything. They just asked for the license plate via text. They added it. As soon as they pulled up to the gate, they went to the like fast pass type gate, and the camera saw their license plate, opened up the gate, went right through, didn't have to push anything or do anything, which I thought was pretty awesome. And this place is massive, and but they only say you can fit 4 people in it, which doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they have those rules. There's 2 king size beds in each bedroom. Each has a master suite, bathroom attached. So you have the king size beds, 2 of those, and then each bedroom has a pull-out couch that could easily sleep 2 people, but comfortably 1 child or 1 adult. And then you have this huge sectional in the living room. So you could fit like 8, 10 people in here, no problem.
I wonder, do they charge extra for extra people, and that's why they're doing it like that, where they're putting four and then, or is it just like a hard limit when you're trying to book more than four?
Yeah, it's just a hard limit. Like it wouldn't even pop up if I put more than 4 in there. So we booked it for 4. My parents kind of snuck in. We said they were visiting. I don't think they care. You don't get daily housekeeping or anything like that, I don't believe. I requested to not have it and they didn't even confirm it. So I'm guessing there's just no housekeeping. It's kind of like a here's the key, we got you in. Go have at it. We'll clean it up when you're done and that's it. And you can get food delivered to you through DoorDash and stuff. You just give them like your condos code. They still got lost a bit. I had to go out and share a pin and meet them on the road. But that's one thing because all the Evermore restaurants and everything close at 10 p.m. Conrad still has like a couple bars and restaurants open past that. So we did go down there one night and had a couple drinks at that bar. But Evermore as itself kind of closes up fairly early. So you might want to have stuff in your fridge if you want to sit out by the lagoon and have drinks later and all that stuff. But the one downside is at least the stuff I bought on Evermore property, none of it coded properly for the Hilton credits. But when I did grab some drinks at the Conrad bar, charged it directly at the bar, those did code. So if you want to burn credits, you might just need to walk over to Conrad, which was actually closer to us. The unit we got, we were on the very end, closest to Conrad. So it was a quicker walk than trying to go to Evermore to eat anyway.
Yeah, the place is huge, so I can imagine, like, depending on how far you are from like different things. I'm probably not surprised by the fact that it didn't code right, because it's not a sort of proper Hilton, and the Conrad just being a standalone. I think a lot of families go to Orlando and they want that kitchen. That's why the timeshare scene there has boomed so much, obviously for vacations and stuff like that. I tend to prefer a hotel room when I'm going because I'm not going to cook. I know that there's a lot of people who do want to cook when they're on vacation. You have the families and kids. I like the fact that this resort delivers that. You have the timeshare aspect, or the, the apartment Airbnb sort of aspect, and then you also have a very nice hotel if you want that, and they all get the amenities. And yeah, I mean, I've been saying it for years now. I definitely need to go stay there. But I just am not high on Orlando these days. I went way too many times from like 2020 to 2024, and then I just, every time I think about going there, I'm like, Orlando just hasn't, it's just not drawing me in right now.
No, I get that. I mean, the traffic there is just insane. It keeps getting worse, so it's always a struggle. That's what I like about this place. We didn't go to any. Well, we did go to the fun spots. We can talk about that on a future show if we don't want to hit it today. But I like that we just went there and kind of hung out there, and we stayed there. And as we talked on the Conrad video, you get access to all. When you're staying at the Conrad, you get the access to everything. When you're staying at Evermore, you don't get access to the Conrad pool or the little bit of Conrad Beach that they have there. Not a huge deal, but there's the Evermore pool that's heated that has the water slide thing. There's also a Villas pool, which is the older. It's been there for a while, you can tell. And so you can go there. That one's heated. Nobody was there. It was wide open. We went there. There was like 3 people there during the day, that warm day, and at night when it was cold, nobody's there. The arcade is also attached there, a decent little arcade, which is kind of cool. And they have prizes still. It's like a ticket system, but they have a vending machine that you can redeem your tickets for. So there's no person working it, which I thought was kind of unique. And then behind the new condos, they have a brand new pool that just opened, I want to say a few months ago. So you can go over to that pool as well. That was very nice, more modern resorty. And they have a bus that takes you around to all the different places if you don't want to walk around. But it's just, you can go there and not go anywhere else. You can feel like you're in the Caribbean and just kind of relax. And the nice thing is you can buy your own beers at the liquor store or whatever and pour them in your cup and go sit out by the lagoon, and you don't have to pay out the nose like you do if you're staying at a normal beach resort, which is kind of cool. But I would say the Conrad is beautiful, one of the nicest rooms I've ever stayed at. If it was just me and my wife, we would probably stay there. But if you have a kid or 2 kids, or you're coming with parents or whatever, this is a really great option, and I'll go back for sure.
Sounds good, but we do have to talk. We have to close with this. You've been waiting a week to talk about backpacks in overhead bins and the dread of what happens when you bring one item on. You don't bring a carry-on and a personal item, and you want to put your personal item up, and you don't have anything else. You want to just put it up, right? And then the flight attendant says, "No, you can't do that." This is like a nightmare scenario. I worry about this all the time. It has only happened to me like once, but you had it happen to you last week where they forced you to put your personal item under the seat in front of you.
Well, they forced my daughter because we had switched flights last minute, and this was when I talked about rebooking on American Airlines and saving a ton of miles. Doing it last Monday, we were supposed to leave at 8 a.m. I wanted to get a little bit later. I was looking for like a 10 a.m. flight, and it just popped up, and it ended up saving us points too, which was kind of cool. So we got here, and there were only 2 seats left in the middle of the plane, and then 2 seats left in the back of the plane. So I put them up in the middle, and me and my son went to the back. So I was walking behind them, and she went to put hers up in the back, or up above. And the flight attendant was standing there because you know how they always stand right near the exit row. One of them does. He's like, "Oh, backpacks under the seat." My wife has the mother load old backpack that you can't get anymore. So she put hers up there because it's big and it wouldn't fit. But my daughter shoved hers under her seat. She doesn't really need the leg room anyway, so not a big deal. I walk to the back and I'm waiting for him to watch us and say something, but I shove mine in the overhead. My son shoves his in. They don't say anything, but I've been waiting for this fight for years now because I feel like it should be you each get one item to put in the overhead. It doesn't matter if it's got wheels or if it's a backpack. If you have 2 items, then yes, one needs to go under your seat. But why, if my thing had wheels, why do I get preference? It should be based on if you want to get on earlier, have the credit card, have the status, book the right seat, whatever it is. If I'm on the plane and there's open seats or open spaces, I should have the right to that.
Yeah, I have a lot of feelings about this. I actually disagree. I think that I think you should be able to put both your items up, quite honestly, unless it's 100% full and they need a bag where they will go look through the bins and say, okay, this is just a backpack here. Whose backpack is this? And then put it down and put somebody's bag if they need to make room. That's rare. I mean, I'll be honest. I put both my bag and my backpack up because I'm tall and there's really no room for that. I have always worried about the same thing. I'm always waiting for them to tell me that's the case. Now, my daughter does travel with a small backpack that she puts under her seat, but I could also put my backpack under her seat. We could put the both of them together. Neither is very big, but it's funny how both of us independently, I don't think we've ever talked about this before, where you're always looking for this fight. You're waiting for the flight attendant to say, and I always play dumb. And I've talked about this advice, but I always greet the flight attendants very, very friendly. I always say, "How is your day going?" And then, when they say it, I make a small conversation, not only when I get on the plane, but also the flight attendant who's more towards the back watching you. And that a little bit of social engineering usually helps because then they like you and then they're more willing to let you do it. But I hate it more when they're just barking out orders anyway. That's really what pisses me off because, you get those power hungry flight attendants. I get it. They're dealing with hundreds of people. Some people weren't on the plane and, people act like fools on planes, but it's a nightmare of mine to have to fly with a backpack between my legs, and it's so stupid. One of these days it's going to happen, and I probably deserve it.
Yeah, I just don't understand the logic behind it because they don't take up any more space, probably less space than a regular roller bag. And if I brought that, I'm okay to put it up there because I'm on the plane now. But since I didn't bring that and I'm taking up less space, I'm not allowed to. I just the argument doesn't like, oh, I need to inconvenience myself because somebody else didn't bring a backpack too. I just don't understand that, and it really annoys me when like there was another flight that a guy was looking up there and the bins were full and he was looking at like backpacks. He's like, some people are putting their stuff up there that they shouldn't. And he was with his family and they all had like 3 bags and they're trying to shove like all this crap up there. I'm like, bro, this is your fault that you brought all this crap. And then you're getting mad that other people only brought 1 bag and put it up there. And even on this flight, a guy grabbed my bag down and moved it to the other side before he even asked. And I was like, what are you doing touching my stuff without saying, hey, whose is this? Can I move this so all our bags are in the same row? It was like, I was just waiting. There's so many fights that almost happened.
Snitches get stitches. Don't be walking down the aisle saying this person shouldn't have put this there and that. Just mind your business. I will say on the flip side of that, I board planes very early because I want to make sure I can get my stuff up in the bin. So I will make sure I'm at the front of whatever group. Obviously, when you have status, that helps out a lot because then you can just board early. I do not enjoy being on a plane early. In fact, I sacrifice. I would rather be the last person on the plane. So I have a choice to make. If I'm going to be the last person on the plane, then there's not going to be bin space. So I don't do that. So I sit an extra 30 or 40 minutes on the stupid plane in order to make sure I get that space too. And that's a decision I'm making, and I'm miserable at doing it. I would, like I said, if I just have a small bag, I would just, and it was going to go in front of me, I would literally be the last one on the plane.
That's what we used to do when we used to check bags when we were in our early 20s is we would just let everybody else board and be the last 2 on the plane because we didn't have anything else. Like we might have had a small little bag with our remember the portable DVD players that the flip screen that you had to like put the disc in?
You brought one of those? That's awesome.
Yeah. We would bring those on the plane back before there was tablets or anything, and that would be like the only with some snacks and that, and we didn't really take up any space, so we'd walk on as the last person. That was like always my thing. Like, all right, let's board the very last person. There's no reason to get up until there's nobody left. So like that. But it also bothers me if you're sitting in first class or comfort plus and you got that because you paid for it or because of your status and stuff. And people that are walking on or boarding about the same time going to the back will take up those spaces. And it's like, no, if everybody else is already seated in comfort plus or first class, okay, then go for it. That's just unused space. But if there's still empty seats, the flight attendant should be stopping people from doing that. It's supposed to be reserved for people sitting in those seats.
And the other thing I hate is when they lie. This is a full flight, and then you end up with like 30 or 40 empty seats. So the whole time they're yelling at everybody to crunch everything in, and then there's plenty of space. I think that they just say that every time people get on, oh, this is a full flight. Make sure you do that. On the flip side of this, people act like fools. They don't listen when they're traveling. People are overwhelmed. They're not used to it. And so I understand why, flight attendants have to be a little bit more on top of it. Most of them are great. And I will tell you again, that trick of just saying, how's your day going? And being more, just showing them that you care. I don't know how to describe that, but just having more than just like a hello, that little next step, it makes a big difference. I've had great service. And if you're in first class, then that person or the person who greets you, they're the one who's going to serve you. And it's even better when it comes down to that. But I heard Southwest, we can close with this. I heard that they're struggling with the seating stuff. I saw several people complain that they get assigned to a row towards the front of the plane, and then there's no bin space for their stuff by the time they get on, and then their bags are ending up 20 rows back, and they can't get off the plane. So Southwest has a little bit to figure out with these bulkhead seats and how they're doing their whole new baggage policy.
Well, that was kind of always the thing at Southwest. Like you just grabbed whatever space and you threw it up there because you could sit at any seat and all that. So I don't think people have adjusted so much to that. I think that's one of the things that the low cost carriers get right that I've always enjoyed about flying them is they charge less to check baggage because it does speed up the boarding process. So more people check bags than they carry on because they have to pay for the carry on. I still only bring a backpack. I still put it in the overhead bin, even though I'm not supposed to because I didn't pay for it. Nobody has ever said anything. So there's your little hack for the low cost carriers.
Yes, it's based on when you board. So I've only seen the low cost carriers basically enforcing the bag thing at boarding, so they know which position. But once you walk onto that plane, I've never seen a flight attendant tell somebody to not
Yeah.
put something up in the bin based on the type of ticket that they booked. I think back in the day, Spirit used to try to do that, and it didn't really work. But Southwest, a lot of things, yeah, as you pointed out, a year ago, 2 free bags, whatever seat you want. Now they're giving you a seat. You're going to have to carry on. It's going to change the whole thing too, because everybody's going to be carrying on Southwest compared to people who could just check for free because they don't want to pay. So the whole sort of thing there, I don't know. But do you guys let us know in the comments? Do you have all these mental battles? Are you prepared for war every time with the carry-on bin like we are? One of these days, I am afraid of flight attendants. I will say I've watched too many people get kicked off planes now. I've flown enough to watch it happen that there's certain flight attendants, it just makes their day to ruin somebody else's. And I do recognize that they have ultimate power and authority. So I would never fight with a flight attendant. That's just the way it is. I would just back down as much as I'm all talk here, but I would just do what they said.
I'm almost to the point that I'm going to talk myself into bringing a roller bag from now on, so nobody can say anything to me because you work it up in your head. But at least we have our children. We both sacrifice our children's feet area for our bags. I've done it before. I'll do it again if I need to.
Yes, my daughter has no say in the matter. She'll complain and it'd be like, look, we flew back on Frontier from Florida over Christmas or whatever. That was the flight. And I have not done a transcontinental in 29-inch pitch for ever, probably, because I always had the increased legroom. I couldn't get it for that flight. And I told my daughter, I was like, I'm going to be sitting with my legs very wide open into your seat. And that's just going to be the way it's going to be. I said, if you want to be 6'2" and have to deal with this. And yeah, she still didn't.
You're ready to learn about man spreading, lady.
The whole ride is my legs are in her seat. That's been her whole life. Kids are good for something though on planes, at least to give you a little bit more space.
Yeah, I love it when a lot of times we'll do where it's me, my daughter in the middle, or me, my wife, and then my daughter, and then my son sits across the aisle from me, and he loves it. He's like, "Yeah, leave me alone. I'll be over here."
So let us know in the comments what you guys think about everything we talked about today. Winter festivals. Where are some cool winter festivals around the town, like the one in Michigan? I'd love to know about more of those. I'm not really that up on that. Calala getting paid to go to luxury, Evermore, and then the big debate. Do you have these same battles? Let us know down below. We do 2 shows a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and today is our travel show. We'll have our Miles and Points show in a couple days. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
Have a good week, everybody.